Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the El Toro's podcast, exclusively now on Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Here, let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on things like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast, which is always a plus, with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast right at your fingertips and in one place. I can't believe it took me this long to switch over to Anchor.fm, but I couldn't be happier now. So, get yourself started and download the free Anchor app now, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of El Toro's podcast. And yes, you have guessed it. Your ears do not deceive you. This is El Toro. Where the hell have I been? It's the year 2021. We're in the month of March. And y'all haven't heard from me other than a couple of posts here and there on social media. And the last podcast that was released on the El Toro's podcast network was the Brody Lee episode. So what the heck has been going on with El Toro? Well, for those of you who know me or have heard my previous podcasts in the past, I am somebody who is family oriented. I love being around my family. I love being around my friends. And this past holiday season, same as many others, because of the pandemic, we have been limited to being able to see our closest relatives. And in particular, for my case, I'm very close with my sister. I'm very close with my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, and her kids. And obviously very close to my mom. my dad passed away many, many years ago due to cancer. So he obviously is not around. My my wife's immediate family, cousins, extended family. This is usually the time of year, the time that we all get to hang out. We all get to see each other, eat, drink, laugh, pick on each other, rinse, lather, repeat type thing. So the fact that I haven't been able to like see my mom, spend time with my mom, be able to hug my mom, give my mom a kiss, have the kids be able to like hug their abuela, grandma, be able to take a drive out to Pennsylvania to see my sister, my brother-in-law, the kids, hang out with them, hug them and kiss them and whatnot, because we're supposed to be maintaining our quarantine bubble and social distancing and all that stuff. It was very, very difficult. So it was very heartbreaking for me to not be able to do that. In addition to that, my one escape has always been professional wrestling. I have been able to go to specific shows whenever there were shows available, like the Intergender Bonanza, Pro Wrestling Magic, Battle Club Pro, and so on and so forth. And that was out of the picture as well. So in a way, I was, despite the fact that I was working and I was keeping my mind extremely busy with work, and obviously with my wife, my kids, and the only other people who currently are in the quarantine bubble, which would be my in-laws, because they watch the kids whenever I'm working or whenever I have to be called into the city to do any work, and they watch the kids like right away. They are in the immediate quarantine bubble, and I can see them easier than I can actually see anybody else. And the fact that because my in-laws are much older, they qualify to get the vaccine, so they're vaccinated, and my wife is vaccinated. So we're in that safe space of the quarantine bubble. So that's the only family I'm able to physically see in person and not have to really worry too much, as I would have to worry about being able to see my mom or being able to see my sister and the kids and so on. So the only escape that I had was wrestling, and the fact that I'm not able to see any of live wrestling events for obvious reasons, and the camaraderie that I've developed with several of my wrestling familia, my wrestling family, it's been depressing. And don't get me wrong, there has been a lot of professional wrestling stuff on the internet, live on TV, on pay-per-views and all that stuff that I could have easily have talked about. But whenever I actually try to sit myself down, put pen to paper, create an outline, I would get sad. I would get sad because it hurt. So it took me this long to be able to really get back into the swing of wanting to be able to do it. And I actually have several people to thank for that, to help me kind of get that fire under my ass lit up to produce a podcast. And in no particular order, obviously, the Colossal Mike Law, as much as he might not be aware, he is one of the really good reasons that I am still in touch with wrestling. He drops a line every once in a while to see how I'm doing, and it's awesome. It just thinking about it right now, it just puts a huge smile on my face. So he's one of the guys who I attest to the fact that I can continue doing this kind of stuff because he is a true friend. You got the Sizzling One Stan Styles as well. You have my girl there, the answer to your prayers, Ariella Nix. She's a sweetheart in itself. My other friend Shannon, she's a sweetie, and is always there. It's like, listen, if you ever want to talk, I'm here. we're good. Everything's good. I think what helped motivate me even more, and I don't know if she's actually going to hear this. I will tag her in it. But Zeta Zhang. So here's a story about Zeta. For those of you who like, who the heck is Zeta Zhang? Shame on you. But she was a part of the NXT roster, and I first saw her. The very first time I actually saw her was the very first Mae Young Classic, and it was something about her that really, really, really caught my attention. And it's just like the explosiveness that she has in the ring, and it's just how good she really is. So I kept on keeping an eye on her. I started following her on social media. I saw the camaraderie and the friendship that she developed with Xia Li, and the two of them tagging together and just hanging out together. So I started following Xia Li as well. She has such an explosiveness character when she does anything in the ring. It was very mesmerizing to see. And fast forward to some time, the WWE had let her go. So she just kept on wrestling in other places, in other locations. MLW picked her up, which I was really, really excited for. So I kept following her. I followed her social media. I went as much to help repost a lot of things that she was likely posting up on her Twitter account, on her Instagram account. Whenever she was actually going to be competing someplace, I would try to raise awareness for people to see what I saw. She didn't need any help from me because she did that pretty much well on her own. But you know how I try to support as much as the indie wrestling scene as I possibly can. I had some of my friends who never saw NXT not only watch NXT, but also watch some of her matches, and they started following her as well. This is what they've told me. I can't confirm or deny that they've actually done it. And I would get her merch, and no big deal. I mean, I'm buying the merch and whatnot. But this most recent thing that happened, so during the pandemic, she had already she was away from the United States for about a year. And if I'm, and maybe she'll probably correct me, she was in Taiwan, I believe. And she was there for a full year. So she was doing a lot of MMA training, some wrestling stuff over there, and keeping active. And I was enjoying everything she was posting up. Her silliness, her matches, her merch. She's a foodie, so I always enjoyed seeing her put up pictures of her food and stuff like that. She posted this thing up where she's actually beating up a plush doll, which I thought was freaking hilarious because it does fit with her personality. And I was like, all right, cool. So when I was following her Instagram stories, there was a particular post of her saying about one piece of merchandise that I was interested in. And it was this customized Funko Pop of Zeta Zhang. And sure enough, I would like one. Why not? I have one of Salina de la Renta and autographed and whatnot, which was freaking awesome. That's a story for another day. But I wanted one from her. So I just, reached out to her and said, I wanted to see if there was any more of them available. She said, yeah, absolutely. So she told me how much it was. I sent her the money. It's like, here you go. And that's pretty much all I wanted. It was just like, the Funko Pop. And I completely understood that it would take a while to get simply because she wasn't in the States. She was overseas. So fast forward to maybe about a couple of weeks ago. She has obviously returned to the States from being away for a full year. And I'm thinking, okay, she's I'm following her Instagram stories. She's saying that, okay, she's back. She doesn't have that much of a bit of jet lag. She's getting all her stuff situated, blah, blah, blah. It's like saying, okay, I'll get it when I get it. Not a big deal. So I come home from work one day, and there is this package that my wife brought in. It's on the table. I'm like saying, the first thing I thought is like, I didn't order anything from Amazon because it comes in that Amazon bubble wrap packaging. But then I get closer look at it and I recognize the handwriting. Her name was scratched off from the top corner, but number one, I recognized the address it was coming from, and number two, I recognize her handwriting because I've had merchandise that I purchased from her before. So I'm like saying, ooh, here's the Funko Pop. So I got excited. I start tearing it open. It wasn't just the Funko Pop. And you guys may have seen it on Instagram, but she not only just sent the Funko Pop, but she sent 2 awesome, quote-unquote, baseball cards of her, signed, a custom anime portrait of herself as a patch to either iron on or sew on, and an amazing autograph picture of her with a beautiful little note on there. And I fucking melted. I fucking melted that she did that. And you know what? Zeta really didn't have to do that at all. And she did. And this is what makes me love that girl even more. It's just that her heart is so huge. She is so kind. She's very considerate. She loves her fans. She really does, as long as you're respectful, of course. She's truly, she's not somebody I want to fuck with either. It's like, this girl has an MMA background. You really think that I'd be stupid enough to actually do something to her or at her? Man, she'll take my fucking arm off, shove it up my ass so far that it'll come right out of my mouth. I'm not messing with that girl. That girl's got my respect. That girl's got my love. All right? But yeah, so all of this to say this. Between my indie friends and somebody who's never met me in person yet, they've helped me get to a point where I'm like saying, you know what? I should start podcasting again. And then the second I really open up my eyes and I look at Fight TV, I usually don't go on there unless I want to watch a repeat show that I have purchased in the past. And I'm in the US, so I get to see the things that are available to me in the United States. I know in the UK and overseas, if you have some sort of subscription for Fight TV, you can also watch all of All Elite Wrestling's pay-per-views through there as well. I purchased them through Bleacher Report Live, BRL Live, so I have all of the pay-per-views through there, and I can watch them at any time I want. And yes, that's the only company that I will fully pay $40, $50 bucks for a pay-per-view now, because you're going to get your money's worth. But I digress. So I opened up Fight TV, and at the same time that I opened up Fight TV, I opened up my Facebook page, and my Instagram page, and my Twitter page on my new computer. And all of a sudden, it's like out of nowhere, because now I'm motivated to actually start talking about wrestling. What do I see come up? But Pro Wrestling Magic actually had a promotion for their latest pay-per-view that was going to be taking place March the 20th of this year on Fight TV, the Ides of March. And I'm like saying, fuck, Pro Wrestling Magic are my boys. They hooked me up with some really good seats when I went over there. I know a couple of the people who work there. I know some of the wrestlers that compete there. And this was like my calling to return. So yeah, I bought the pay-per-view. And then the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, they were coming back with a pay-per-view the following day, March the 21st. So I'm like, holy shit, I'm ordering that pay-per-view. So NWA Back for the Attack took place. And then obviously on that same day, on the 21st, was WWE's Fast Lane. And I already have a subscription to Peacock TV, and I watch it on Peacock TV because for those of you who aren't following, this is the last month that you'll be able to start watching pay-per-views on the WWE network, because everything from WrestleMania onwards will now be available on Peacock TV. So, and your subscription is not going to get grandfathered over. Once your WWE network subscription is over at the end of March, that's it. You're not going to get charged on it. And if you want to continue watching the WWE network, you have to get a subscription to Peacock TV. So, now that I got that out of the way, I had already had an intention of actually sort of talking about the WWE Fastlane pay-per-view after it happened. So with all this kindness, all of this fire being lit under my butt, I have a lot of content to talk about for today's podcast. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't been as available. And I'm hoping now that this fire has been lit under me, I'll be able to churn out a couple of more of these episodes for you guys, especially next month for WrestleMania week. So we clearly have 2 days of NXT TakeOver, which, if memory serves me right, is going to be taking place April 7th and April 8th. And on that same week, WrestleMania 37 is also 2 nights, will be taking place on April 10th and April 11th. So there's going to be a lot of content to talk about in the month of April, and I'm hoping to bring that to you as well. So why don't we actually get into it by starting the conversation about Pro Wrestling Magic's return with Ides of March. It took place on Fight TV, March 20th of 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The card from top to bottom was pretty freaking amazing. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I suggest you actually fork out the $10 and watch it, because everything that was on there was pretty cool. I will talk about a few things in some of the matches, but I will not be giving you any spoilers of the fact. The show from top to bottom was very, very well done. From what I was able to tell, it was limited capacity. It was socially distant, and everyone was wearing their mask, which was great. They took the precautions necessary to make sure that this was a safe environment, that people could be there live and enjoy what is professional wrestling. And what really didn't surprise me for Pro Wrestling Magic. They've always cared about their fans. They've always cared about their wrestlers, the people backstage. So it didn't put it past me that they would not be having a very strict guideline on adhering to the pandemic stuff. So let's talk about the card. The card was the Dark Arts Championship was on the line, where Pro Wrestling Magic Dark Arts Champion Darius Carter, the all-father of professional wrestling, the savior of professional wrestling, the champion of champions, Mr. Darius Carter, went up against Erica Lee. The other match that took place is another championship match, where Pro Wrestling Magic's junior heavyweight champion, Sebastian Cage, went one-on-one with the director, Jay George. Okay, the other match was taken from the vault of Pro Wrestling Magic. This was for the vacated Pro Wrestling Magic Women's Championship, where you had Jordan Grace go up against Sonya Strong to determine the new Pro Wrestling Magic's Women's Champion. Then you had a singles bout with Billy Dixon going up against my man, Steven Pena. The other singles matches, you had John Tella versus the Dream Master, Manny Rodriguez. Then you had another title match, which was a very unique title match that took place apparently earlier in that day. It was the Barroom Brawl match for the Pro Wrestling Magic World Tag Team titles, which had the champions Pain and Wrecking Ball going up against the American Murder Society versus BCB versus Chris Ryan and Jay Haru. Then you had a singles match where you had Matt Vertigo going up against Everett Cross. And then your main event is the Pro Wrestling Magic Championship match where you had my man, the Meadowlands Monster, the champion, going up against Saif Al-Sabad. Like I said, from top to bottom, the match was absolutely amazing. My only issue with the card was the results of the Pro Wrestling Magic World Tag Team titles. In my personal opinion, this is neither here nor there, but I'm probably a little biased about this. The American Murder Society, even though they didn't leave with the belt, I still think that that was a match that really suited them. And looks like they had a lot of fun even after realizing that they didn't win the titles. That's all I'm going to say about that result of the match. But I really do believe that AMS should have been the new tag team champions. But that's neither here nor there. That's just a personal opinion of mine. And again, I'm a little bit biased because I love the guy, Steve Off. Okay? So I really suggest that anybody who wants to learn about professional wrestling and really want to enjoy professional wrestling at its finest, you should order this pay-per-view. You can still catch the replays, and once you purchase this, you can watch it anytime you want. Okay? Ides of March, Pro Wrestling Magic's pay-per-view on Fight.tv. I encourage you all to go check it out. I would rate this a 4.5 out of 5 Toros. That's how good it was. And I personally had a lot of fun just watching it. So that was on the 20th. So yesterday, the 21st, NWA returns on pay-per-view on Fight TV, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, back for the attack. And they decided to bring it back on pay-per-view because they were going to commemorate and dedicate the event, especially the main event, to Joseph Hudson. And he was known in the NWA as the question mark. And when I heard that they were going to be dedicating the main event to the question mark, not only was because it was NWA, but the fact that they were going to be doing that made me say, I'm going to sit in front of the TV, purchase the pay-per-view, and I'm going to watch the damn pay-per-view. And I even whipped out my NWA 10 pounds of glory. My replica of the NWA World's Heavyweight Belt. I whipped that out of my wrestling pouch. I shined that shit up. I put it on. You will see a picture of me on Instagram that I posted, posing with it. I've had that thing on me. I've been clutching on it during the entire pay-per-view. I didn't get up from my seat other than to reach over to grab my drink and sip on my drink. Okay? So I was glued for Back to the Attack. Okay? And the card from top to bottom was absolutely amazing. In no particular order, you had a 4-way match. We had Crimson versus Jack Dane versus Jordan Clearwater versus Slice Boogie. You had one of the NWA World Tag Team Champion, Kratos, taking on Tyrus. You had a championship match for the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, where the champion, Trevor Murdoch, was going up against Chris Adonis. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it should, because Chris Adonis was formerly known as Chris Masters in the WWE. You had another title match where the champion, NWA World Television Champion, The Pope, defended his title against Tom Latimer. Now, the rules for this match was like a 6-minute time limit, 6-minute, 5-second time. But for this particular match, it was extended to 10 minutes and change. So this was a 10-minute match that kept on going back and forth. Okay. You have the number one contenders match for the NWA World Women's Championship. Camille finally faces off with La Mera Mera freaking Thunder Rosa. And the main event of the evening, NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis defending his title against the other half of the NWA World Tag Team Champion, Aaron Stevens. If his name sounds familiar, it should, because Aaron Stevens was formerly known as Damien Sandow in the WWE. Aaron Stevens was dedicating this match to his fallen friend and mentor, the Question Mark. And I have to say that this pay-per-view, 5 out of 5 Toros. I was glued to the TV. I was holding and clenching my title during the entire event, watching everything from start to finish. That I left an imprint of the dome, the NWA dome, from the belt on one of my hands, while the other actual hand actually had the word heavyweight on it imprinted, because I was clutching it. I was yelling at the TV during the matches, and my kids wanted to find out what the heck was going on. So first my son comes in. He was about to ask, "Are you okay, Daddy?" And then he realized what I was yelling at. And then he kind of like did the whole, "Oh, okay." And then he just walks away. And then I'm yelling again. And then it's my little daughter's turn to come inside. And she comes in and is like, "Daddy, what are you doing? Why are you yelling?" And then I just pointed at the screen. And then she understood. And then she left. It was such an amazing match. I had tears coming down my face. The results, I'll have to say that the only result I was hoping it'd be different was the 10 pounds of gold championship match. But everything was just incredible. You really did see a lot of professional wrestling. You saw a lot of incredible storytelling inside of that 20x20 ring. And it was wonderful. So it was really nice to actually see Joe Galley and Tim Storm in there. There's a couple of people I do miss that are not a part of the NWA anymore. Jim Cornette, of course, for obvious reasons, and David Marquez. But they did pretty good with commentary, having Tim Storm in there and Joe Galley. Joe Galley is definitely one of my faves. But the card from top to bottom, a 5 out of 5 Toros. It's truly, truly awesome. So now, why don't we get into WWE Fast Lane that took place March 21st on Peacock TV or the WWE Network, with the kickoff show starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the actual pay-per-view starting at 7 p.m. The one match that I didn't have written down here because it was part of the kickoff show, I wrote it down here before I started recording this, and it was the United States Championship match where Riddle, current champion, went up against the leader of Reckoning, Mustafa Ali. And they've had a match before, and this is like a rematch to that match. And I have to say that this one match shouldn't have been on the kickoff show. This fucking match should have been on the main fucking card because it was that god dang good.
It was stellar. Everything about this match should have been... This was an A++ match. The result was exactly what I was hoping it would be. And what happened at the end of it was poetry. This was fucking poetry. Where the hell has this been the entire time of this past year of the WWE? And to put this on the kickoff show is a sacrilege. This should have been on the main pay-per-view. I digress, but I think that this is one of the matches that stole the show. So my hat's off to Riddle and Mustafa Ali for an amazing wrestling match. This was a true wrestling match. And then at the end, the result was just perfect once the match had ended. Great storytelling. And that match alone is 5 stars. To me, it was truly, truly awesome. I don't like what they're making Riddle do in the end. They're making him come off as a... I hate to use this word, but it's the closest word I can actually think of in short notice. They're making him look like a stoner, like a surfer dude, stoner. Bex is like, yo, I got some ideas, and we go like, Riddle's not that kind of a guy. He is laid back, but he isn't somebody like that. Okay, but whatever. The match was still terrific. If you were to ask me, out of which one of these matches should have been on the kickoff show, I would probably have said, and this is going to sound really fucked up, but sorry, it's just a flat, honest truth. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. That should have been on the kickoff show, okay? So, just simply because of the fact of the result. Seth Rollins didn't really need that win. So if they were going to make Seth Rollins win, they should have just left it on the kickoff show and be done with that. Okay, so the Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins match should have been on the kickoff show. I'm sticking to it. It was a subpar. If I had to compare those two matches, the Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins match and the United States Championship match, the latter is the better match. I mean, seriously. So, but in the end, it is what it is. They did it the way they did it. And what are you going to do about it? Okay. If I had to choose between the Shinsuke Nakamura match, Shinsuke versus Rollins, or Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon match, I would probably say Nakamura versus Rollins should have been on the kickoff show. Because the Strowman versus Shane McMahon match didn't even happen. Shane apparently tweaked his knee in practice earlier in that day. So he conned is more like it. He conned Elias into the match, and Elias got his ass destroyed. I'm not even saying whooped. It was freaking destroyed. His ass needs to be repaired from that match. Braun came out looking strong, that's for damn sure, and fucking pissed. So this whole thing with Shane and Strowman is by far not done. I'm anticipating this shit being concluded at WrestleMania, in one of the nights of WrestleMania. So why don't we take a look at the rest of the card? So you have the Universal Championship, where Roman Reigns goes up against Daniel Bryan with Edge as the special guest enforcer. You had the Women's Tag Team Championship match, where the champions Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, with Reginald in their corner, went up against Sasha Banks, the SmackDown's champion, and Bianca Belair. Then you had the Intercontinental Championship, where Big E, the champion, went up against Apollo Crews. We had the no-holds-barred match, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. You had the Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss match. And I've already told you the other matches as well that took place. Let's break down the other matches. So we already talked about the Strowman versus not Shane McMahon, Elias. We talked about the Nakamura Rollins match. We talked about the Riddle Championship match versus Mustafa Ali. Let's talk about the no holds barred match. McIntyre versus Sheamus. You can't get two better, bigger, men in this business to do what these two did to each other in the ring, outside of the ring, around Thunderdome, and make it look real. I was at the edge of my seat watching this match. This was a very, very well put together match. The result is the result that you would expect to come out of this. It was great. It was a great match, I'll have to say. But then again, I've always loved Sheamus and I've always loved Drew McIntyre. And I've a lot of the work that they've put into just making sure that the match is structured well. I've always had confidence that any match that they were going to be in, they were going to make the other person look great, regardless of how bad the match could wind up being. So this was a freaking amazing match. I love the result that took place on it. Huge thumbs up to these two guys. Okay. Let's talk about the Intercontinental Championship match. Champion Big E versus the new Apollo Crews. This turn for Apollo Crews was spectacular. I hate the fact that it took this long for them to do it. I've seen a lot of potential from Apollo Crews the day he came in. I feel like that heel turn should have taken place sooner, but it is what it is. I love how intense Apollo is now coming off to be. He is showcasing all of his abilities, all of his skills, everything that I know he is capable of doing. Now people are seeing it. And you have a guy like Big E, been around the block a couple of times, multiple championships. You can't get a better person to tell a story in the ring than him. And one-on-one, that was just incredible. The feat of strength that both of these guys have, their ability to do, for men their size, and for them to be able to do things that you would see a cruiserweight do, is mind-blowing. The match was terrific. The result was great. I was actually shocked at what happened after the match was done, which is also cementing the ruthlessness of Apollo Crews that I've always known he has had. So, absolutely cool. Really, really great. I was very happy with it. Let's talk about the Women's Tag Team Championship match. The result is what I expected it to be, where Baszler and Nia Jax was going to retain. This whole storyline between Banks and Bianca, I've loved everything about what's been going on between the two of them. There was one particular issue that I didn't really like, and, well, fuck it, I'm just going to say it. The fact of how Sasha was really I'm trying to think of the word. It's like berating Bianca Belair as being the rookie. And I didn't really like that very much because for the longest time, if you remember, Sasha was in that position of the rookie. And she didn't like that when it was said to her out of script, if I remember correctly. I can easily go back to my notes at a later time and take a look at this. But when she was called a rookie on national television, not even a pay-per-view, and she had an issue with that wasn't supposed to be a line to be said. And she used that same line that was used on her here. And I kind of really didn't like it, that it was used that way towards Bianca Belair. Because let's face it, I may have some things that I don't really like about Bianca, but bottom line, Bianca is a pure athlete. She is very, very, very unique. She's fucking strong. And to do that on pay-per-view that everyone in the world is seeing, and then just to leave it like that, where Bianca didn't even retaliate and fight her back and just let her walk out of the ring like that, that I felt that there could have been more involved there to continue to build up the road to WrestleMania, which is next month. The final piece to the road to WrestleMania for next month. So I really didn't like that much. The match was what I expected it to wind up being, and with the result. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that one. There's a particular match I'm skipping, and there's a reason for it. But I want to talk about the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns, the champion, going up against Daniel Bryan with Edge as the special guest enforcer. Now, I already knew that this was going to be one hell of a match between the two. The last time they met, the match was just stellar, excellent performance. I had a feeling there was going to be outside interference somehow. I had a feeling that the referee was going to get knocked out somehow. I had a feeling that Edge was going to be involved somehow, and he was involved twice in there somehow. I never expected ever to see Roman Reigns tap out, and he did. But if the ref doesn't see it, it never happened. So because of the result that wound up being what it is, I'm a little sad that I don't get to see Daniel Bryan going to WrestleMania to fight for a championship. Now, however, if the fucking WWE and the powers that be and the writers that be are fucking smart, and Adam Pearce, who I think is the general manager of Raw or SmackDown or something or whatever, whoever the general manager is, if they're smart, they're going to make this championship match for the Universal title a triple threat where you have the champion Roman Reigns, the head of the table, the head of the tribe, Roman Reigns, go up against Edge, the winner of the 2021 Royal Rumble, versus Daniel Bryan. That is fucking money. That would be awesome. This would be also another way of actually cementing Daniel Bryan's final possible attempt at main eventing WrestleMania. In case he never gets to do this again. Same thing with Edge. So this would be fucking money if they decide to go forward with this. So now the last match I want to talk about. This wasn't the last match on the card. I specifically skipped this match. But Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss. So the build-up for this match, it was fucking amazing. Okay, when last you guys remember, The Fiend was burned alive, not to be ever seen again for a while, and Alexa just kept on telling Randy, "Burn me, eliminate me, burn me, eliminate me," and Randy didn't do anything of the sort, and Alexa just kept on pushing, kept on doing a lot of these rituals on Randy. Randy started spewing black stuff out of his mouth. There was a Randy Orton doppelganger coming up with this really deep voice. Alexa has been morphing into specific parts of the Fiend. Her voice changing. And then leading up to this match for the very first intergender match in a really, really long time. But there was never any contact between Bliss and Orton. Orton never got a chance to even lift a finger on Alexa. So a lot of the mythical powers and sorcery and witchcraft and whatever was taking place in the ring was just great. This was amazing storytelling. And to see the return, I guess, of the Fiend burnt to a motherfucking crisp out of the bottom of the ring, Sister Abigail-ing Randy Orton and having Alyssa go on top of Randy for the 1, 2, 3 count. Alexa Bliss has pinned a 14-time world champion Randy Orton. How fucking cool is that? Okay? I thought that was amazing. That was an incredible, incredible build-up. I feel that that's the storytelling that WWE is missing, and they couldn't have picked better people to tell that story with. And I have to say this, that Alexa Bliss is truly one of my favorites for sure. And this girl has been able to do anything and everything and has proven time and time again how fucking great she truly is. Okay? She doesn't need a title because she can make the title work, not have the title work for her. Alexa Bliss is fucking money. She doesn't have a name attached to herself like Sasha Banks has with Snoop Dogg and Charlotte with having Ric Flair. She has worked so hard and doing everything that is asked of her, and she has proven that she can do all this. And this is an Alexa Bliss that I really, really, really love. But then again, I'm sick and sadistic. I'm a sadistic fuck when it comes to things like that. So, stellar match, stellar storyline telling, and it was truly pretty good. It was really, really good. The pay-per-view, all in all, I would say it has to be a 4 out of 5 stars, or 4 out of 5 Toros in this particular case. I do encourage everybody watching it because it was definitely good. If you agree with me, cool. If you don't agree with me, also cool. Okay, you don't have to agree with me on everything. But it was truly great. And I truly had a lot of fun. And I actually started watching. I have to finish watching it as well. Right after FastLane, I started watching the Broken Skull session where Stone Cold Steve Austin actually had Randy Orton on the show. And I'm halfway done. And I'm getting a little bit more respect for Randy than I've had in the past. Of course, I have to finish listening to the rest of the stuff. But for now, it's a really good Broken Skull session. So what is coming up for next month or around the corner? Well, like I mentioned, NXT TakeOver is going to be taking place on 2 nights. So NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver will be a 2-night event. On night number 1, April 7th, will be taking place on the USA Network. And on April 8th, night number 2 will be taking place on Peacock TV. So make sure you subscribe yourself for the free trial, or do what I did. Get yourself the one subscription that has ads on it, and pay $4.99 a month instead of $19.99 that you used to pay for the WWE Network. And when you sign up for that, for WrestleMania weekend, all of the content up to the past SummerSlam is going to be on there. They're still transitioning the rest of the WWE library over, but you will at least have everything up to SummerSlam of last year. So that's Stand and Deliver, April 7th and April 8th. And on that weekend, you have WrestleMania 37 on April 10th and April 11th. So that's Saturday and a Sunday, 2 nights for it. And for the first time in over a year, they're going to actually have a live audience. I think they said it's going to be anywhere between 8 and 10,000 people in the stadium, socially distanced, checking your temperature. You got to make sure that 24 hours prior, you have tested negative for COVID, and you have to have your results handy. All of that fun, all of that stuff. Masks at all time, limited tickets and seating available. That's available now, all of that. So if any of you are going to be going to Tampa for WrestleMania 37, please protect yourself. Wear your masks. Social distance. Do not attend if you have a fever. Do not attend if you've tested positive. Please be careful. Please protect the wrestlers, everybody else around you. Okay? Because the last thing I want to hear is one of my buddies that works at the WWE got COVID because you didn't protect yourselves. Okay? I don't want that. I don't want anybody getting sick. I don't want anybody dying. All right? Please protect yourselves. This is not a fucking joke, guys. So listen, that's all I have for you guys. I'm just really happy to be back. I'm really happy to be talking about pro wrestling again. I hope to be able to do this a little bit more in the future. Guaranteed you're going to have a podcast from me next month during the WrestleMania weekend. We'll see what leads up to it. Who knows? Maybe I might get to see some of the collective from GCW. Maybe I might see some of the stuff from Jersey Championship Wrestling that is returning to the tri-state area, which I'm fucking happy about. We might have something coming up for Battle Club Pro. We might have something more with Pro Wrestling Magic. Who the hell knows what's happening? But it is a wonderful time to be a pro wrestling fan, and I encourage everybody to continuing supporting the independent scenes and the wrestlers. So that's it for me, guys. This is El Toro signing off, and be safe.